Okay, so let's continue. Letters are used for written messages to individuals outside an organization, meaning to say, uh, for example, I am working here in Peña Plata and I will be writing a message to someone from outside my organization, from outside the Peña Plata organization. I will be using letters to send them a formal message. However, it can also be used to communicate formally with employees within an organization. Take note of the term formally. So if, for example, the head of the school or the dean of the school wants to inform me about something formally, he can or she can send me a letter to formally give me the message or yes, inform me about a particular information. Okay, so it is used for outside organization. Letters are external correspondence. External meaning outside, mo ganing outside organization. Okay? Letters are external correspondence written from within a company to outside vendors, clients, or colleagues. Okay? Wait lang ha, kay na ay nag-join. Okay, now we have elements or parts that we need to follow when we are writing letters. This is very important and we need to familiarize this part because these are the standards of a letter and these are required in a letter. First, we have the heading. Heading is consists of the letterhead or return address and the date. So either of the two, pwede letterhead, pwede return address. Letterhead is used when the message or the letter is written by an organization. Say for example, I will be writing a letter to the parents or to you, my students, on behalf of the school. Okay, so I will be using the letterhead of the University of Mindanao Peña Plata. Okay, so that's for organization related letters. But if I will be sending a personal letter to my friend or to my classmate before or to someone outside the organization, I will use a return address. Okay, if I will not be representing a particular organization, if this is a personal letter, I will just write my return address, no letterhead. Letterhead contains the name of the organization and its complete mailing address. Ay, by the way, take note that in the heading part, um, together with the letterhead and the return address is the date. Okay? But usually, at present, if the person writing the letter is representing a particular organization, the date is written below the letterhead. But it is still included in the heading part, although it is below the letterhead. Return address as well. So we'll have the return address first and then the date. Return address and then date. Usually, the date is written right after the next line. I mean, right after the last line of the return address. But some formats have two spaces before the date after the return address. So either of the two will do. Next, letterhead contains the name of the organization and its complete mailing address. So later on, I will be giving you an example, but it is blurry actually. But the components of a letterhead is basically the name of the organization and a mailing address. Mailing address is not an email address. Different na silang duha ha. Take note. When we say mailing address, it is the location. Okay? The location of the organization. For example, Peña Plata College and then below that will be Obenza Street, Peña Plata, Island Garden City of Samal. That is now the mailing address. It may also contain may, meaning to say can or cannot be. Either pwede naa, pwede wala. May also contain a phone number, fax number, email address, web URL, organization slogan, emblem, or logo. Usually, naaning slogan or emblem or logo. Usually. Because it is the icon or representation of the organization. Although usually placed at the top of the page, some information can be placed at the bottom. Natay ginatawag og header and footer. If you are familiar with that, if you are fond of using um, word apps, there is what we call header and footer. So still, although head means top part or upper part, there are parts of the head or heading that are placed at the bottom. For example, the top part may contain the name of the organization, the mailing address, and the name of the organization, the mailing address, and the logo, for example. And then on the bottom part, which is the footer, they're written or for example, the phone number or email address or the fax number. So, pwede siya naa sa bottom part. Meaning to say, the heading can be separated into two. Some parts may be placed on top, some parts may be placed at the bottom, but still, heading ang tawagan na nila. Both. Isa lang ang heading. Okay, giseparate lang ang other parts. But we have to consider the informations nga i-separate. Dili pwede that the phone number will appear at the top tapos the name of the organization and the logo will appear at the bottom. It cannot be. Okay? It's not good to see a letter like that. So, we have to be good in identifying what particular parts of the letterhead to put at the bottom. Okay? Next, since the date is included in the heading, we need to remember that the date line should contain the month, the day, and the year of the letter when it is written. This is the common mistake of many people when writing a letter because they are anticipating when the person addressed in the letter will receive the letter, meaning to say, kanus-an niya madawat ang letter. For example, I am writing now the letter and then I'm anticipating that tomorrow my addressee will receive the letter. So I will put the date November 10, 2021. That is wrong because the basis of the date is not when it is received or it will be received by the addressee, but the date when it is written. So since I will be writing it now, then the date should be today, November 9, 2021. Next one, we also need to remember when talking about the dateline that the month should be spelled in full, not in abbreviation, not abbreviated, not figured. So, dili Nov, dili 11, but November, the entire word, the full word. Okay? Figures are not used for month because there is no universal agreement whether the month or day appears first. Diba when we will be writing for example, we will be filling an application form. We are confused whether we are going to write our the month of our birthday first or the date. Good thing if na ay nakabutang na MMDDYYYY. But if there is none, we will be confused which should come first, the month or the day. So there is no universal rule about that. So since there is no universal rule that automatically the day should come or the month should come before the day, then it will be confusing to the readers. So we need to spell the word correctly, the month correctly. If it's November, then November. December, then December. Okay? Now, here is the return address. I know, this is not the return, anong return address? I'm sorry for that. That's, i-edit lang nako before nako sa send ang PowerPoint presentation. This is actually the letterhead. Okay, that's the letterhead. Take note that the general term is the heading. Heading contains either return address or letterhead together with the date. But when we say letterhead, it is the type of the heading used by a particular organization. Okay, for example, kanang naka-encircle or I mean naka-enclose nga chu kanang nay logo. Mo na siya ang example sa letterhead. Okay? Next, we have here an example of return address. So we have the purok, the barangay, the city, zip code, and then the province, the region, and the date. Okay. Next, we have the inside address. It may include receiver's courtesy title. By the way, balik ta. Kani is katong return address. Ma'am, what exactly is the return address? The return address refers to the address of the person who wrote the letter. So if I will be writing a letter to a friend, I will be writing my address. Usually, dili ni makita ang return address. Okay? Sa personal messages or personal letters, dili kaayo siya gina-require. Pwede ra siya wala. Pero if you will be sa una man good, before man good, walay telephone, walay mga Android phones, walay instant or quick means to communicate with people. So kailangan jud na ay return address kay ang way lang man to reply or to receive a reply is to give the exact address. So mo nang gina-require jud sa una ang return address. But today, instead of a return address, we can include our contact number at the last part of our application letter if we want to be contacted. Dili para sa una na pagkantahay maghulat kag approval sa imong application, you will wait for a mail. Okay? Sent to your address. So that is why you need to put your address. But today, you can just be contacted through phone or through email. Okay? So I want to see that if you will be writing a letter, I want to see that contents, the phone numbers and emails. Kay modern naman ta, mo na natong gina-follow. So return address may or may not be included. Next, we have the inside address. When we say inside address, this refers now to the address of the person who will be receiving the letter or the addressee. Ang mudawat sa letter. Return address is the address of the writer. The inside address is the address of the receiver. It may include receiver's courtesy title, receiver's name, professional title, department name, company name, etc. Always keyed flush with the left margin, meaning to say, nasa sa left part. Okay? Wala naka-indent. Dito gyud siya nitunong sa margin, left part. Usually keyed 3 to 5, keyed pasabot, entered or placed. Usually placed 3 to 5 lines below the date. 3 to 5 lines. Ang uban gani kay 2 lang. Blank lines can be added if the letter is short. If it is long, remove the blank lines. Blank lines, if nakabantay mo, I don't know if you have noticed, there are letters nga pag human gani sa date, kaya na nakabutang na mga linya-linya nga tupong pod sa date, kasagaran na tagtulo ka buok. Ginagamit lang na siya para mutaas ang letter. Ana lang, para mapuno ang page. Pero if the letter is long, it is not needed. Mag-occupy lang siya space, mag-add lang siya page. So if gamay ra imo ako, if mubo lang ang content, then that's the time that you use blank lines. If it's long, and if you will use a blank line mo, add siya another page, then remove the blank lines. It is not needed. It's just a technique to occupy the page. Next, we have here an example. Sorry for the noise. So we have here an example of an inside address. For example, we have here the name. Take note, pwede walay title, pwede na. Pero kung depende man gud siya sa tao. If plain teacher lang siya, for example, ako I have just finished my board licensure exam and then I passed. So if you will write a letter to me, you will just write Geraldine T. Familgan, nothing else. Geraldine T. Familgan, ana lang. If walay additional title. But you have to be sure if naa or wala. And you have to be sure also what is the title. So, kung doktor, kung dili doktor ang ginakontahay. Ako, maed. Dili ko gina-address as professor usually. Well, actually, pwede man. Like Prof. Geraldine T. Familgan, pero dili man dyan prof akong title. Associate Prof pa lang. So, for example, kana, Prof. Geraldine T. Familgan, kama, maed, pwede ra na siya. So, later, na sample niya. So, mana siya, we have the name with the title. Pwede naa, pwede wala. Depende sa person nga padalaan. Dean of College, that is the position, company position, and then the name of the school, UM Peña Plata College, the name of the organization or the name of the company, and then Peña Plata Island Garden City of Samal. Now take note, pwede ba ni mabag-o or pwede dili? Pwede ni mausab, pwede ni lahi. How or when? If I will be sending, if for example, I am a close friend to, for example lang ha, if I am a close friend to Dr. Monteroso and I want to send him a message formally as his friend, I can just write here, I can just omit the Dean of College because I will be sending him a letter not as uh, not seeing him as a dean but as a friend. So I need to omit, I do not need to include the dean of college. And I need to change the address. It would be his personal address. So it depends on the situation. Another example here is this one. So mo ni akong giingon na we will not be putting ma'am or sir in the inside address. So it's either the title doctor or prof or just this one. Ang doctor, pwede siya EDD, pwede siya MD, depende kung sa siya nga doktor. If nanay doktor, ayaw na butangi atong EDD. Okay? Next. Actually, mo na siya, pareho na siya ganiya. Let's have the salutation. Salutation refers to the greeting that begins the message. Dili ni good morning, dili ni good day, dili na mawang salutation. The salutation is katuganing dear chu-chu-chu. Mo na siya ang salutation. It depends on the first line of the inside address for yes, it is dependent on the first or the name or the identity of the receiver. So for example, ako, Geraldine T. Familgan, kailangan ang salutation bagay sa ako So it's either Dear Prof. Familgan or Dear Miss Familgan. Pwede ra. Dear Dr. Monteroso. Ma'am, apelyado jud, dili pwede pangalan. It is formal to use the family name for formal letters. If you will be addressing it to someone higher in rank compared to you, or someone respected, or someone who should be respected, you should be using the family name instead of the first name. It's the formal way. But if you will be giving a letter to your friend, just use the name. You can have, for example, close kayo mo, ang imo lang ibutang kay Dear Cornelio. Ana, okay ra kayo. Or Dear Geraldine, okay ra kayo. Depende sa purpose. That is why it depends on the first line and the relationship between the sender and the receiver. It is keyed flush with the left margin and placed a double space below the last line of the inside address. So pag human sa inside address, leave 2 spaces before you write the salutation. Left margin gihapon siya, tupong siya sa inside address. So we have here an example of salutation. Dear Dr. Montoroso, dear Prof. Pamiligan, my beloved friend, dear Aiza. Ma'am, nganong colon man ang nauna niya, kama ang sunod. Okay, nga nani siya ha. If it is a formal letter, colon should be used because the colon is the formal punctuation for formal letters, appropriate punctuation for formal letters. But if it is informal, you can have a comma. Okay. Next, we have the body of the letter or the body. It is the message section of the letter. Of course, it contains the message. That is why it's called the message section. It begins a double space below the salutation. So if we leave two spaces after inside address before writing the salutation, we need also to leave two spaces after salutation before we will be starting our body. It is single spaced within paragraphs and double spaced between paragraphs. So take note, single space sa within and then two spaces after each or between paragraphs. So if you will be writing two paragraphs, for example, before you write the second paragraph, you need to leave two spaces. Paragraphs may be indented or blocked depending on the letter format selected. So later on, we will be mentioning or discussing the types of letters or the letter formats. Inside the body, we have the introduction, we have the body, and then the conclusion. So we have here, tell the reader why you are writing and what you are writing about. That's for introduction. Body, itemize what exactly you want the reader to do or what exactly you plan to do. And then conclusion, I'm sorry. Tell the readers what's next. Include when you plan a follow-up letter. If it is an application letter, ako alam ni siyang i-edit later. Okay. Next, we have the complementary clause. Complementary clause is the end of the message. Muna ni siyang nagmamahal, sumasayo. Okay. It should match the formality of the message. Of course, just as with the salutation, dapat match ang salutation and ang complementary clause. Dili pwede na formal imong salutation, yang imong complementary clause informal. Okay. Next, we have, it should be keyed double space below the last line of the body. Double spacing jud ta after each, between parts of the letters, double space. Except lang sa date, after sa date, before mag-start sa inside address. It should begin at the same horizontal point as the first character of the date. Okay, so ingana siya. If, for example, the date is written or flashed in the left part, the complementary clause should be flashed on the left part as well. Dapat tupong yun ng date ug ang complementary clause. However, if the date is placed at the horizontal center sa tunga-tunga, di ba na may mga letters nga, ang date kay naa sa tunga-tunga nga part, wala nakatupong sa body, the complementary clause should be aligned with the date still. Bisag asa ang date, dito dapat mutupong si complementary clause. Next, only the first letter of the complementary clause is capitalized. This is also a common mistake in letters. Nga na gina-capitalize ang first letter for each word. That is wrong. Only the first letter of the complementary clause is capitalized. Always remember that. Next, we have here an example of complementary clause. Respectfully yours, sincerely yours, truly yours, and yours truly. So notice that only the first letter of the complementary clause is capitalized. So ang uban man good, they are capitalizing the Y in the yours. So that is wrong. And also, when we talk about formal writing, we will be using either respectfully yours or very respectfully yours. Sincerely yours or very sincerely yours. Depende sa rank. Pero kung kuan lang, formal lang, your friend, pwede ra. Your friend, your enemy, your loved one, pwede ra yung nana. Or yours truly, sincerely yours, pwede ra pod siya sa informal. Pero kaning respectfully, this is very particular in formal letters. Next, we have the signature block. This block, rather, sorry. It's not black, it's block. It's the last part of a letter. It contains the writer's signed name, kid name, and the title. So, actually, you have done this in your research subject sa mga letters ninyo. You have there the name na capitalized, all letters, all caps, and then your position or title, for example, student, or kung ako ang magsulat, BSed English program head, pwedeng nana, or teacher, education program head, that's the title. And then the signature above the printed name. The name is keyed 4 spaces below the complementary clause. Take note. Take note. Only this is referring to the kid name, not the signature. Nga naman, because the 4 spaces after the complementary clause is intended for the signature. Because signature should be printed, handwritten, originally signed, dili soft copy, dili digitalized. So we need to leave 4 spaces after the complementary clause before we will write the kid name or the printed name. So that is an example of, sorry na, ano na po, sa cellphone, ay sa computer, manggod ni ba? So, mana siya, we have the name in all capital letters, tapos the position and the signature above the kid name. Do you have questions so far? You have clarifications? Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Okay. Informally pwede. Again, informally pwede. Pero if you want to impress, kasi in writing a letter, di ba we have this initial goal nga, dapat ma-approve, dapat mapirmahan, dapat ma-impress, ana, di ba? If approval imong goal, you have to impress your reader. If you know that the receiver of the letter is very particular with the grammar, the rules of writing letters, formality, if that is the kind of reader that you will have, you need to be formal. So again, kung dili kayo stricto, pwede ra. But if you know nga medyo pag-abot ana, labi na pag mga language teachers, okay lang kung dili mga language teachers kay ginapalagpas ra na nila. But if Filipino or English teachers, very particular kaayo may anang ingon ana. Seldom lang ta makatunong og English teacher nga dili kayo big deal sa ilaha ang format sa letter. But if you are a language teacher, you have to teach your students to be formal in whatever writing they write. So in that sense, we should be using the correct or the formal terms. Okay? Pero again, if informal, pwede ra. Ana lang siya. We just need to weigh things out. We need to consider the person receiving the letter. Kaya para di ta mabad shot. Ana lang siya. Okay, other concerns? Thank you for the clarification. At least, we will help your classmate also. Kaya napapoy naglibog about ana nga part. How about others? Napa ba? I believe your silence means you have understood already. or clearly the discussion. We will know later. Next, we have supplementary parts of a letter. Supplementary, meaning to say, it will add additional information to the letter or the body of the letter. Pwede na, pwede wala. We have first the subject line. Subject line is containing the topic of the letter. It is considered part of the body, less than one line, and not a complete sentence. Example ani kay kanang resignation letter, kanang title good kumbaga. What type of letter is that? Mo na siya ginatawag og subject letter. Letter for approval, kana mayon ana. Application letter. So those are examples of subject lines. So dili siya, this is an application letter, blah blah blah. Dili ingon ana. It is just a brief phrase. Next, we have enclosure or attachment notation. This is any item sent with the letter such as check, invoice, or photograph. Kid flash left and may include list of attachments. Pasabot, kung naa kay idugang, for example, ako magbuhat kog letter, tapos na ako i-add na resume, pwede ko magbutang og enclosure notation nga nakabutang sa baba. Enclosure notation, resume. Pwede ingon ana, pasabot, that would signal the person reading the letter that you are attaching or you have attached a resume with the letter. Pwede ingon ana. But pwede naa, pwede wala. You can attach a resume or other documents with the letter without putting annotation. Walay problema. Pwede ra naa, pwede ra wala. It's just important that you know na naaday option. Kay basig daghan kaayo bang inyong gi-attach, okay lang kung resume lang. Pero kung daghan kayo mo gi-attach, say for example, gipasa na ninyo tanan requirements of application na ana tahay teacher na mo, you will submit your application letter or cover letter naman na, cover letter, tapos resume, tapos ay personal data sheet na sa kuan sa DepEd, and then you will have your board rating, you will have your certificates, etc., etc. Daghan pa kayo na, NBI clearance, tax certification, so on and so forth. You can list all those attachments para at least aware sila nakatutan na ng imong gi-include. Meaning to say, pag nakakay gi-attach dito nga wala nila na-receive, nawala to. At least aware sila nga pag submit nimo sa letter, katutanan na submit nimo to. Kung naay nawala sa ilahan na to. Okay, so that is the purpose of enclosure or attachment notation. Again, pwede naa, pwede wala. Next, we have copy of notation. This is used when a copy of a letter is sent to someone other than the addressee. Again, take note. If you will be sending a copy of the letter to another person, you will be putting CC or C, meaning it's a copy of the letter. Okay, it is kid flush with the left margin. Next, we have the postscript. We have, it is used to add a personal comment or to emphasize an important point discussed in the body, should follow the last notation, and written in paragraph form. And then, pag magbutang tag postscript, usually ang initials kay PS. I know that you are familiar with this. Again, take note that subject line, enclosure notation, copy of notation, and postscript are just supplementary parts. Pwede naa, pwede wala. Question so far, naa ba? Okay, silence means na. Okay, we have here letter format. Letter format have actually tulo ka buok ang common, and we will have 3. So we have here full block, modified block, and the simplified format. When we say full block, it means all the parts of the letter are aligned at the left margin. By the way, take note, your letter should be justified. should be justified. It's neat and it's pleasant to the eye of the reader if it is justified. So make sure that your letters are justified. Dili lang sa letters, bisag unsa, short story or unsa nga mga compositions. As long as dili poem. Kay center man nakasagara ng poem. So, if mga formal writing, make sure naka-justify na siya. Mga reports, etc. So, full block, tanan aligned sa left. Walay indention ang paragraphs. So, from the date down to the complementary clause and the signature block, nasa left na sila tanan. Next, the modified block is when the return address, complementary clause, and signature block begin at the horizontal center of the page. Muna nitong mga letter nga ang return address, ang date, ang complementary clause ug ang signature block kay nasa tunga-tunga, wala nakatupong sa other parts. Tawag ana is modified block. Ang other references ang tawag ana kay semi-block. Next, we have simplified format. It is used when a letter is addressed to a company rather than an individual, when the gender of the receiver or the marital status of a female receiver is unknown. So, kung para sa kumpanya, dili para sa tao. So, maning gamitan natog simplified, pag di ta sure kung sa gender, etc. Now, what is something with simplified nga wala sa or different with block and modified block? It is because the salutation and complementary clause are eliminated. Walay salutation, walay complementary clause. Instead, the subject line is placed on behalf or used on behalf of the salutation. Okay? So, take note nga ang simplified format, kailangan there is a subject line. And that should be written in all capital letters. Okay? Are there any questions or clarifications about the topics, the parts of the letters? Nabay mga pangutana? Okay, ako'y mangutana. Okay. Ako'y mangutana. Pwede ba nga lahi ang moperma sa akong letter? Ako nagsulat, ako ang pangalan, lahi ang moperma. Pwede ba na? Okay. Pwede or dili? Okay. Okay. Okay, here's the thing. It can be and it cannot be at the same time, depending on the situation. If it's an application letter, di ka madawat, girl. Kung dili ikaw ang mupirma. That just means nga dili ka totally engaged or dedicated sa imuhang application process. But, if for example, nagpadala og letter ang DepEd sa naka-address siya sa principal. Pero, wala ang principal ato na time. Kailangan na ay mo receive sa letter. In that case, at that moment, necessary nga i-receive ang letter. Pero wala ang tao nga dapat mo receive. Someone can sign in authority in authority. Meaning to say, gitagaan siya og permission. Permitted. Okay? To sign the letter. So, kailangan na ay permission. Dili pwede magbuot-buot. Yes, pwede. Kantahay, ako ang principal. Pwede ko mo yung napalihog sa kube, pero mahisak, i-receive sa kay di ko kanha. That can be. Again, very particular lang na siya pag ikaw ang receiver. Pero kung ikaw ang writer, dili ma-validate ang letter kung lahi ang moperma. So, receiver pwede, writer dili. Sender dili. Receiver pwede. Okay? Now, if ever na magpapirma ka sa lahi, just remind that person or kung ikaw ang papirmahon, ang for mo na kasagaran ginagamit. Okay? That is usually used by people. Ang for nga word, tapos full name and then pirma. If ikaw ang mopirma, formally, dili for ang isulat. Technically, dapat dili for ang isulat. Unsa isulat? Small letter P, duha ka buok. P tuldok, P tutuldok. P tuldok, P tutuldok. Small letters na sa tanan. Again, P tuldok, P tutuldok or colon. Small letters. That would mean that your signature is permitted, mong letter P, by the person. So you are authorized. And then after ana, full name nimo in all capital letter, signature sa ibabaw. Okay? That's the formal way to sign a paper or letter on behalf of somebody. Okay? Are there any more questions? Okay, I think there is none. That ends our discussion. Before we finally